From the CBS Bay Area studios, this is KPIX 5 News.
Welcome back to KPIX 5 this morning. Time now is 6:29. I'm Melissa Kane.
Good morning. I'm Devin Fehely.
And this is the day that a rash of immigration enforcement raids is expected to happen, as reported by the New York Times. Now, the raids are expected to target more than 2,000 illegal immigrants who have final deportation orders. 3 Bay Area lawmakers were among a group of 20 congressional Democrats who toured an immigration detention center in Texas yesterday. The locals included Anna Eshoo of Palo Alto, Jackie Spear of San Mateo, and Mike Thompson of Napa County.
We no doubt have a humanitarian crisis that we have not gotten a handle on.
Today, South Bay Congresswoman Jackie Spear spoke on behalf of the group after 20 members of Congress toured an immigration detention facility in McAllen, Texas.
A situation where adult men were housed in cells that would normally accommodate 5 or 6, and there might have been 40 in those cells. They have not washed in 40 days. They have not brushed their teeth.
Customs and Border Protection runs the facility, and a representative says the men are able to brush their teeth and no one has been there for more than 32 days. The main problem is that the center is not supposed to hold this many people. When Vice President Mike Pence visited the same facility yesterday, the officer in charge said it's only supposed to hold 382 people, but it's holding 960. Most are single men who were caught trying to cross the border illegally.
We need to recognize that these facilities are way overpopulated. It's inhumane. We've got to move these populations to other locations.
Ordinarily, they would be at other locations. Customs and Border Protection is supposed to quickly transfer detainees to Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. But right now, ICE facilities are also way over capacity, so the detainees have to stay at McAllen.
Our border control officers are doing the best they can with what they have.
There are about 200 family members at McAllen, also caught crossing the border. They're being housed in a specially built facility and cannot be held for longer than 20 days. But Spear said for asylum seekers, even that is too long.
We're going to develop a legislative package that we're going to suggest to all of our colleagues is the very first thing we need to do to address this humanitarian crisis.
Concord police are searching for a suspect in connection with a shooting at Six Flags Water Park. Shots were fired yesterday evening in the parking lot of Hurricane Harbor. The victim was shot twice, and officers say it all started as an argument between 2 strangers that turned violent.
The victim and his girlfriend were parked in the parking lot. The suspect vehicle was parked next to their vehicle. An argument ensued between the 2 parties of the vehicles, at which time the suspect opened fire on the male victim.
Police say the suspect was driving an older model silver 4-door Honda with front bumper damage. They are working to obtain security camera footage. A van smashed into a CVS drugstore in Moraga. Police say the driver was trying to park yesterday afternoon when his foot slipped accidentally off the brakes and onto the gas. 4 people inside of that store were hurt. 3 had minor injuries, but 1 was hospitalized.
It's really kind of scary because I shop here a lot. I'm at the check stand often. I know a few of the checkers, and I don't know which one was injured, but I'm sorry. I hope she's okay.
The driver and the passenger in the van were not seriously injured. Police do not think the driver was under the influence of drugs or alcohol.
And police in Alameda say that a pair of thieves set off a firecracker in a supermarket to create a diversion while they stole food. Now, this happened on Thursday afternoon at a busy Safeway store in the Alameda South Shore Center. Police say that a man threw a firecracker into the beer section, and in the commotion that followed, his female accomplice made off with a cart full of food. Now, no one was injured, but the explosion did scare a few customers. The thieves left in a silver compact SUV. And a bizarre mystery in Santa Cruz. Police are looking for a life ring that was stolen from a local beach on Westcliff Drive. Investigators say they were surprised this week to find the flotation device missing from one of its stations that had been vandalized. The life ring has since been replaced, and now the city is working to make their stations more secure.
The BART Police Department only recently started arming its officers with Narcan to treat drug overdoses at the transit agency's facilities. Well, Friday night, They had to use it twice at 2 different stations. A man at the West Oakland station was treated first, followed by a woman at San Francisco's Powell Street station about an hour later. Both were transported to the hospital for treatment. Drug use at BART stations has been a pervasive problem for years. Last year, we shot this video of addicts blatantly shooting up in the middle of a quarter at the Civic Station in San Francisco. Now, since then, BART has responded by adding needle kiosks at some stations. And just last week, the transit agency announced that it would begin enforcing a 10-minute limit for people using its restrooms. BART says the policy is meant to cut down on IV drug use in those bathrooms.
A major cleanup is underway in Southern California at a canyon where nearly 800,000 gallons of oil and water have leaked out of the ground from an oil field where Chevron does steam extraction. Now, it's in a remote part of Kern County, west of Bakersfield. The oil has been seeping from the ground since May. The crews are still trying to figure out the source of the leak. The good news is most of the spill is in a dry steam bed, and with no rain in sight, it's not expected to go anywhere. Meanwhile, first responders were out in Monterey Bay practicing for a potential oil spill. A 500-foot boom was hauled out into the sea. That's a device that's used to trap oil after a spill. The Monterey Fire Department brought the crews together so they could get comfortable using the equipment.
So that's one of the big things we want to work on today is how can we make sure that when all of those different agencies show up that we're all able to talk to each other and effectively work as a team.
The drill also focused on steps to take for protecting wildlife in the event of an oil spill. And in Pacifica, what may be Taco Bell's most scenic restaurant is back open again, and with a twist. The Pacifica oceanfront location has been renovated into an all-new cantina. The remodel includes local artwork, a fireplace, a tapas-style menu, and alcohol. Now, some fans of the restaurant chain camped out for hours to be first in line.
It's Taco Bell Cantina. This is serious business. And also we get a free Taco Bell towel. That's in the, like the hot sauce towel.
Not many Taco Bells on the beach with that view.
The first 150 fans also received a free crunchy taco to eat in the newly remodeled space.
50 years ago next week, the crew of Apollo 11 blasted off from the Kennedy Space Center and made their historic landing on the moon. A dozen astronauts would eventually make the 240,000-mile trip, scooping up hundreds of pounds of rocks and soil from the lunar surface.
CBS reporter Mark Strassman got a rare glimpse inside a secure, windowless NASA facility to show us what they brought back.
Inside a Federal Reserve-grade bank vault.
Wow, that is thick.
Ryan Ziegler showed us the Lunar Sample Laboratory, NASA's collection of moon rocks. In here, our white anti-contamination jumpsuits are a must.
This is the largest collection.
This is by far the largest collection anywhere in the world.
Humanity's first samples taken from another world, older than any rocks found on Earth.
So this is essentially the oldest rock from the moon. That rock is 4.4 billion years old, and the moon might only be 4.4 billion years old.
Try to get a rock in here.
6 Apollo missions landed men on the moon.
This one right here? That's it. You got it right there.
Their astronauts turned geologists collected in all 842 pounds of lunar rock and soil, starting 50 years ago this month.
There you go.
This was the last sample collected on the Apollo 11 mission, and Neil Armstrong decided that the rock box with the samples in it looked empty, so he shoveled 4 or 5 shovelfuls of dirt into the rock box.
He just did it on his own.
Did it on his own.
Apollo 11 soil sits inside these 2 dishes.
Probably the most valuable sample the Apollo 11 mission brought back. If I could pick one sample from Apollo 11, this is it.
Not a rock.
Not a rock, soil.
Nitrogen pumped inside these stainless steel cabinets preserves the rocks inside. This display showcases the collection's highlights.
Is this the Lunar Rock Hall of Fame?
Pretty much, yeah.
Rocks as old as our solar system, Apollo's geologic legacy. It's a hands-on collection for someone with training and 3 sets of gloves.
How heavy is that one?
This weighs 6 or 7 pounds would be my guess.
Still kind of fun to pick it up.
It never stops being fun. It's amazing. Every day I come into the lab is just like the first day.
Many rocks have stories. This one involves Apollo 16 astronaut Charlie Duke in 1972.
Of all the rocks collected by the Apollo missions, that was the biggest. So there's a great video of Charlie Duke rolling that up the leg of his spacesuit because it was so big, and it turned out to be a really important sample.
It was hard work, yeah.
Duke, now 83, talked to us about rock collecting on the moon.
Working against that suit was demanding. So after 8 hours in that suit, you were really tired. You squeeze in the gloves and in and out of the car and trying to bend over, and so it was exhausting.
Big Navy salute.
But worth it.
How about rolling that one over?
The rocks revealed secrets,
That's 20 pounds of...
including the moon's own violent origin. Scientists now believe a Mars-sized planet collided with Earth, exploding a ring of debris that formed the moon. That was about 4.5 billion years ago.
How significant were bringing back the moon rocks?
The moon rocks taught us about the entire solar system.
Arguably the most important geological find ever.
I'm sure there are people who'd argue with that, but I think they would lose.
This corner houses something special.
In our top secret, high security, don't go beyond this cord cabinet.
Inside are the final 6 pristine moon samples, unsealed, unstudied until now. NASA will soon open 3 of them, saving the rest for the next generation of researchers. Mark Strassman at the Johnson Space Center.
I see some cooler numbers on the back end of the 7-day forecast, particularly for that top row, the inland locations where, yes, there's another day today in the low 90s and tomorrow will still pretty much be there. But there's a trend that starts early this week and takes us to low to mid 80s by the time we get to Friday and Saturday of this week. Everybody else is not really going to change that much or at all. We're going to stay right around average for this time of year, which means right around upper 60s to low 70s for the Bay and mid 60s at the coast. We'll keep the clouds at the coastline and morning low clouds and fog for everybody else around the Bay.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.